Okay, video one, introduction to the video series. I'm going to run through some things you might have heard me say. Don't turn it off. You might have heard me say in class. In fact, much of it some of you will heard me say in class. This is not an introduction to the class per se. I'll make references to it, to our work together in person, but it's the introductory talk for the video series. And yes, before you turn me off and move on to the next one, what I say here is game on the quiz as well, including reintroducing myself. I thought about this, about not putting who up here, and because I thought, well, if you're watching this video and you don't know who I am, that's really creepy, in a sense. And then I realized, well, several people will drop the class after day one, and several people will add the class after day one, and it would take a brief minute to say, not my name, but my to talk just a little bit about my background, and also brag on football teams. So I did my undergraduate work at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa in the 1980s, and Tuscaloosa, home to the 15-time national champion Alabama Crimson Tide. Did my bachelor's degree in political science, minored in English and biology and maybe something else along the way. I went to work for a gubernatorial campaign right out of college. It was a very unsuccessful campaign for about a year, and then through contacts I wound up working for a pollster for a while, and that's where I got first interested in survey research, in social science, sampling a lot of the issues that we'll cover here. I went back to graduate school to the 6-time national championship, Ohio State University, home of the Buckeyes. 5 years in Columbus, Ohio, and then to Ole Miss, where I've been 20 years, and I can't even probably count the number of times that I've taught a version of this class. I first taught it at Ohio State in, I guess, about 1992, and this version of the course that you'll take is just not really at all like the one that I first taught, because things have changed so much and continue to. What is the video series? It is an incredibly amateurish effort on my part to get started in this class, POL 251, providing students a resource that they can have at home relative to the material that typically is covered in a class lecture where you have the sage on the stage. I'm on a stage, and you take notes relative to what I said, and then that's it. You're at home alone. And so we're reconceptualizing the classroom these days. This video series, if you're looking for something polished, if you're looking for high quality production, especially if you're looking for a good looking narrator, then you're going to be sorely disappointed. This is, again, a rough draft for me toward the concept of flipping the classroom. And the rough draft is in the video. I'll promise I'll do better in the classroom in person than on the video. It's a rough draft, and please keep that in mind. The comments, you say, well, this, that, or the other relative to the production and my performance, because it's my first ever performance before a camera with no one in the audience. So sort of comments like that are not productive. Other kinds of comments I'm very anxious to get feedback. Especially, we need to identify whenever I say something incorrectly. You go, wow, he said something incorrectly. Yes, everyone does in every class they've ever taught, on video or not. This is an opportunity for us to correct some mistakes, though, as we learn the material going forward. What else about the what? Just one more time, an amateurish effort on my part. I'll tell you what it's most like. As I watch it, it's most like watching me prep for a lecture in front of a live audience. In the sense, what I normally do in the prep for the lecture is I rehearse in my head and I say things, in my head, as I hope they might turn out in a more elaborate way in front of people. And so you see me talking to the chalkboard a lot, and I do that when I'm prepping a lecture. So you get sort of a video record of me prepping a live lecture that if you saw in person, likely would be more smooth than you see in prep. Now I have the ambition to redo this thing as many times as necessary, really, to get it right. But you need to know before you watch any of the videos that they are one-shot items. I'm not using notes. I have not rehearsed any of the talks that are recorded on the video. It is just me relying on 20 years of experience, sort of out of my brain, and doing it sometimes in a clipped pace, or I may misplace a word, or have some struggle relating one thing to the other, and that is just what it is. You have this. Now, is it better than nothing? I hope so. And I'll get to in the why part. I'll get to more of that momentarily. It's important for me to ask when and explain to you that it is the summer of 2013, right before class begins on August 26th, I believe. We're in August right now, a couple of weeks out. I've done 4/5 of what I intend to do on video. I'm not finished. I'm far enough along to film the introduction to the video series. It's important to say when, just in case I use some of this later on, or you may, in the unlikely event that you reconsult it sometime later. That it's 2013 because things are rapidly changing in the environment of quantitative social science because of the deluge of data. Certainly, if you were with me in the early days of one-on-one class meetings, you've already heard me emphasize how important it's going to be that we transition from an era when it's okay for people to say that they don't know any math or they don't know anything about data. That is going to be known widely. It already is as innumeracy and treated, I think, socially in a way that's fundamentally different than it is today. Very soon. In really every profession, every major in the university, everything that we do is going to be requiring a level of understanding, a level of knowledge relative to things quantitative that really is not even imaginable today. On video, I've assigned a talk given, I think in the spring, it may have been in the summer, by Gary King, the eminent scientist at Harvard University. And I think, my recollection is correct, he says that like 90% of the world's data were created in the last 2 years. It's important to say we're in 2013 because that statement may seem extraordinarily naive by the time you graduate from college. The explosion in the availability of data, and in turn, the requirement of people to be able to work with data is why it's important to say when we're here. Why is it important for me to say where? Well, first off, there is no where. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm at my wife's family's lake cabin in northeastern Alabama alone. I came here for the quiet. Our house in Oxford is right up against Highway 6, and so the noise is unimaginable on video. I still want to say wait, because right to my left and your right is a big lake, and from time to time you'll hear boats. I'm talking about jet skis, especially if I'm filming on a weekend, although I didn't do much of that. Boats and jet skis, I'm going to try to edit that out. But one more time, this is amateurish video, and what editing I come up with before it's time to get these videos to you is apt to be amateurish as well. So if you hear something, if you hear That's probably a boat. It could, however, though, be one of my neighbors. I say in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'm not in a town. I'm not anywhere. I'm 20 miles at least from a spot where you could. I'm 20 miles at least from a retail establishment of any sort. So you can't. I'm also, even in my advanced years, 50 years old right now. I'm at least 20 years younger than any other human being within a, I don't know, 10-mile radius. It seems. So it could be a boat. It could be one of my neighbors mowing their grass. So if we pay somebody to mow the grass here, but evidently that's not the norm. There's a guy mowing his grass now near me, and it's raining at the same time. They're very dedicated about that. So we're in the middle of nowhere, by myself, and there's no one in this room. So no one in the house. There's no one on the grounds. It's just me and a camera, and it really, yes, it is extraordinarily odd and creepy. So these questions are about you, really, and your work, and this is why I wanted, no matter if you've heard this before, to hear this part again, because it's important. How do you use the videos? How do you use it? And use them, and more generally, how do you take the class and be successful and learn everything? And I was trying to run through that. So when a video appears, the board will be fairly full, generally. So I just stop it there and write down everything on the board and leave room around, above, beside, anything that appears on the board to take notes and write in what I said about whatever it is on the board. So if there's some, if I've got X bar, when that appears, so you've got X bar already on paper, and then I tell you what X bar is, and you write. Now some of you are already panicked. You write down what it is, and you've got an excellent set of notes. If you miss something I said, or more likely, if you find it difficult to understand what I said, my recommendation is that you go back and listen again. In a moment I'll mention it's part of the motivation for me having put this amateurish nonsense on video in the first place. So you're going to write down what I had on the board and then fill it in with what I say about it, and have an excellent set of notes for test time. Now, in addition to that, is there anything else that you can do with a video series or with class notes from when we're actually together in person? And the answer is, once again, when it is 2013, and we do have available all of the information, more information than any human being could ever ingest. Because the World Wide Web is available to you if you have an internet connection. And because the web is available to you, so is all of the information that we'll talk about in here. Now, I'll have assigned, and it will appear on the syllabus, some material that is web-based, written web-based. You can think of it as the textbook, the links that I'll provide, and one of them is a textbook, really. But it's all online, and yet I haven't assigned all of the material online that might be helpful to you. And so I tell students this in every class, but it's really important here. So I've got a topic, or I made in the video a statement, and you've written it down, my statement, and it's about a topic. It's about a sample mean, or it's about variance, or it's about whatever. Google is your friend. So yes, take down the notes based on what I say in the video lectures. Supplement those notes with what we do together in person. Yes, 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 do all of that. And yes, if you need to listen to a segment 4 or 5 times in order for it to sort of become more natural to you, then do all of that. But also, don't forget that there's probably a resource out there on the web better than me. Yes, I said that. There's probably a resource out there on every word that comes out of my mouth on the World Wide Web that's better than me. So you can take these topics, you can take these statistics that we talk about, and you can enter their names into Google, and voila, you've got a lot of different resources, and even video out there that can help you and supplement, probably do things better. than me? Why didn't I assign video on the topics that I want you to cover that was professionally produced by someone else instead of me? Because I make the tests. You score on the tests. We need to be simpatico about what we mean on these things. It's my course. I organize the material in a particular way based on experience, and there is nothing out there that does my course, 251. So you're stuck with me and my amateurish videos and me mumbling at the board and so forth. And that's how you're going to use them to prepare. And prepare for quizzes, and yes, they're all required. Now last, the why of things. I'll direct this at me first and then revisit another idea relative to you. Why am I doing this? I mean, I was assigned to teach 2 sections of Political Science 251 in January of 2013, a long time ago. And I was teaching 2 different courses in the spring, just passed. And I also had an honor student as a thesis advisor for an honor student. And at the end of the thesis, the student was required to do some of the things that the student learned in Political Science 251. Not very advanced, in fact, by my standards, rudimentary, and by your standards, sort of things that we learned toward the end of the course. And the progress stopped on the thesis. It slowed, then it stopped, and then the student made it clear to me that he or she needed some help. And so I gave a couple of lectures, private, not private really, maybe a couple of lectures in an empty room in Bishop that really ripped right off the pages of lectures that I'd given 251 routinely. And nothing happened. Progress, still no progress. And so I did it again. And still not, to me, satisfactory progress, and I did it again. And this time, I turned the students' MacBook Pro, which is on a table. I turned it to me and I filmed it. I filmed me giving a lecture about what this particular section of the thesis was going to look like and how it was going to be motivated by things the student had learned in 251. And voila, everything changed. Everything changed. The thesis was done. It was done perfectly. And in conversation with the student, it was like, yes, that mattered. Having the ability to replay the lecture as he or she was writing down the thesis, sort of better than the notes is what he or she said, better than the notes. But what I think was meant was supplementary to the notes, giving more meaning to the notes when you get to material that for you, this student was one of those many, many political science majors who says, I hate math and I'm no good at math. And yet everybody can get this material, really, really get it. It's just, you have to sometimes work, some people have to work harder with it than other people. And having the lecture at home, having the lecture as homework, that's a sign. My idea is that we're going to produce a more productive and hopefully at the end of the day, a higher scoring group on examinations. So when you sit to study for a midterm, you sit to study for a final exam, you've got the lectures there. Not all of them. The front end of this course is sort of qualitative, and the back end of this course is going to go qualitative. We're going to talk about research ethics. That's all going to be done in person. There are no videos about, on the front end, philosophy of science, and on the back end, ethics. But the guts of the course are in the videos, and in terms of lecture. And it's my belief, in my now experience, that having those available when it's time to study for the midterm, the final, and certainly going to be required in advance for the quizzes, should be helpful. Not to replace lecture in class, not to replace what we talk about in class, but to supplement it and to serve as a resource. Last thing, one more time, I apologize about the quality, and I apologize that you're the first in line to get video from me. My ambition is to make them more performance oriented when I do it again, and to make them more rehearsed and more professional looking, more professional sounding, more of everything. Instead, you get essentially the rough draft. My apologies for that, and yet we are where we are. That's the end of the introduction.